Cash flow strategy number one, turn trash into cash. Now, why is it number one? I have no idea. These are sort of randomly numbered, but what is important is that turning your trash into cash helps you maximize your cash flow, maximize your profits, and every company has control over turning their trash into cash. And it doesn't take a lot of effort to implement this. You should be able to implement it in a few days or in a few weeks, but with a lot of time commitment to do that. Now, before we get started, let me introduce myself. My name is David Saphir. And if you like what I'm providing, subscribe to my channel because I love being able to connect with people. And more than anything, you get the most out of it when you subscribe. I have 209 cash flow strategies that I've developed for my clients and for the people I work with and I train, accountants and bookkeepers, to implement cash flow systems. And if you're enjoying what you hear, great. Again, subscribe, but let's get moving. Let's talk about turning trash into cash. Well, I like the strategy number one because it rhymes, but more than anything else, it's because you might be sitting on a small gold mine of garbage. Now, what do I mean by this? Let's talk about normal garbage and trash removal. The normal process is you contract with a trash hauler to take your trash away. And they come once, twice, 3 times a week, maybe every day if you generate a lot of trash. It doesn't matter. You are paying them to haul your trash away. So if you are especially a manufacturer, service companies don't really have this type of an opportunity. But if you are a manufacturer whose manufacturing systems provide excess and generate waste and scrap for whatever reason, then, and you're throwing waste or scrap away, it behooves you. It's a great idea to identify what that scrap is, to see if anybody needs that scrap in their manufacturing process or their recycling to other products. Well, I guess that's a manufacturing process. And if they do, they're buying that raw material somewhere. So why not buy it from you? Now, oftentimes there's a middleman, somebody who takes trash, consolidates it, and sells it in bulk to a somebody who's using it in their manufacturing process. Sometimes if you generate enough trash, you can sell directly to somebody who's using it. So I'll give you an example. Metals are all recyclable. A lot of plastics are recyclable. Paper can be recycled and used in the manufacturing process. I'm not going to do a full list. It's impossible for me to do that. But what you can do is start calling recycling centers and seeing if they'll pay. I mean, electronics have a huge amount of metals in them, and we're throwing away most of our electronics. And there are companies out there that are gathering them all up and pulling out all the precious metals from those electronics. So that's just to give you a small idea, and it might be only once in a while. I'll give you an example. You've got 100 computers. For whatever reason, you're going to replace them all. Well, that might be enough now that somebody's interested in coming in and picking them up and paying them for you to you as scrap. There's another strategy that says just sell them as used, but that's a different strategy. We're trying to focus in on things that right now that you can sell your trash for cash. So let's go over the sort of the rules of the road with this one. You get to make the ultimate decision whether or not you want to sell it. Is it worth it to you? You're going to have to sort it into bins, and probably generally these recyclers, the people who buy your trash, will have rules. So you're going to have to figure out whether it's cost effective to follow their rules. But at the end of the day, you get to make the decision. So again, this is a medium difficulty. One, you have to find somebody, you've got to negotiate or just get an agreement between you of what that means. But you also get to reduce your garbage pickup to save money. So you've got two good things. You've got an expense that you're going to lower, and then you're going to replace that with income. So you've got a multiplier effect. So it could take you some weeks, possibly months, depending on if you've got a long-term contract for your trash hauling, where it's a minimum amount, and you fall below that minimum amount, you might have to keep paying the minimum amount until you can renegotiate your contract. But that's okay, because at the end of the day, it's just a matter of timing until you reap those cost savings. Now, will you receive cash sooner or later? Well, you'll get it sooner because this is cash appearing from nowhere. Well, it's appearing from your garbage. So that's 2 thumbs up. This is mostly a mindset and just making the decision to implement. There might be some technical issues behind collecting the trash and disposing of it. Sorting into bins is a semi-technical issue where you're going to have 2 or 3 bins, and people are smart enough to know which ones to put it into, but it's a fairly easy technical implementation. So the key department here is purchasing. Secondary would be operations, because operations is going to be the ones who implement the separating of your valuable trash into your garbage trash. So you got to get them involved. You can't do this in a vacuum. They won't be happy if you just show up one day saying, this is what you got to do. So this is actually a root cause fix. It might not be a big problem for you. It could be very expensive to remove your trash. But when we're talking about root causes, we're talking about fundamental changes to the company that are permanent, that will increase cash flow long-term over time. And that helps everything when you can implement this type of a strategy. So you get the benefit, but the vendor also gets the benefit, because there is somebody out there right now looking to buy your trash for cash. If you like this video, you'll like my other 200 plus videos that have been produced or are in production. They're all about cash flow strategies. If you like them, subscribe and leave me a comment. Let me know what you liked. Let me know if you've got a question, and we can move on and enjoy strategy after strategy together. So turning trash into cash, let me give you a few good examples of clients that you might have or you might come across of turning trash into cash. One would be, I'm just going to go through random thoughts in my head. I get creative. I recommend that you try to blow up your box, get rid of the box, and think about all the different things and different types of companies that produce trash that you might be able to help them turn it into cash. Okay, number one, a truck fleet, big or small, they're constantly doing oil changes. If they're doing them themselves, they're producing waste, the oil waste. There might be places, if they have enough of it, a drum at a time, that they can sell that to a recycling center, because I know it's out there being purchased to recycle oil that's used in automobiles. So that's one. Number two, I knew a girl in high school. She was like one of the wealthiest families in high school, and her dad made his fortune, an original fortune, collecting those little packing peanuts that aren't used very much anymore, because the only thing they can be recycled as is packaging peanuts. But he would collect them from companies who had them, that brought them in as part of their materials that they received. They would end up with a massive amount of packing materials. He would buy them really cheap from the people who generated the peanuts as waste, and then ship them to companies who use them in their packaging material to ship. Now, yes, somebody's buying them or producing them new, but imagine if you can buy them for pennies on the dollar, you can sell them for dimes or quarters on the dollar and make huge profits. And that's exactly what he did. Now, personally, I know of 2 manufacturing situations where the scrap was sold. One was scrap metal. They did punching of large sheets of metal, and they punched holes into it, cut shapes into it. And at the end, there was all these scrap cutouts that couldn't be reused. They were too small and they wouldn't go into the automated machines. And so those were collected and sold as scrap. Now that's been happening for years. It's very unlikely you're going to come across anybody who's not selling their scrap metal, but you never know. Another situation is I worked with a gas can manufacturer. Gas can meaning you put gasoline or petrol into the can, and it had a cap, and then you would fill up a lawnmower, or it would be an extra gasoline to bring on a long trip, etc. Well, when I started working with them, I noticed they had huge amounts of scrap. I think their failure rate for production was somewhere between 10 and 20%. In other words, they'd manufacture the entire gas can and then do a leak test on it, which is just filling it up with air and putting it underwater and seeing if bubbles popped up. And 10 to 20% of them had bubbles coming up, so they had to scrap them. Now, I said, guys, have you ever thought about selling it? And they said, yeah, but you know what? Nobody wants to buy this type of plastic. It's too whatever, exotic. And I said, have you ever tried? What do you think the answer was? No. It's like, okay, can we try selling it? And sure enough, it took a couple of weeks of trying to identify, recyclers, but we finally found one that they might have just hauled it away for free, but I think they paid for it. But let's talk about it. If all they did was haul it away for free, what does that do for the company? It lowers their cost to pay somebody to haul it away and put it into a landfill. So you've got two good things going on. Number one, you've reduced your costs, but this recycler didn't put into a landfill. They reused it. So it's good for the environment as well, which is a great thing. We don't think about that often when we're talking about cash flow, but if you can add that to your benefits, why not? So at the end of the day, there was one technical part. This is one of these companies that they had garbage pickup, I think, 3 times a week, and the recycler would only pick up once a week. So there was a challenge on storage because the bulk of their garbage was these gas cans. They could get pretty big and they're voluminous. They weren't heavy, but they took up a lot of space. And so they had to stop throwing them into the garbage dumpster. And they, I think, had a new dumpster from the recycler, but they also had to start storing it in the warehouse. Now, luckily, they had a big enough warehouse. It just took up a little bit of space. So there were some technical issues on implementation, but that's okay because it saved them a lot of money. So there's a few good examples. Go out there, talk to your clients, think about it. You'll know off the top of your head if any of them might even qualify in any way, shape, or form, and then just go ask them. Think about the hero you'll be by helping them find cash in their trash.